Oscars, Emmys, it's not about them shows. This award segment has Golden Joes. Chief and Chris, dressed up, looking the smartest. We're holding nothing back, discussing the best artist. And then we have the best vehicle. You might not agree, but don't be too critical. Beverage in hand, we're at a rave. Joes are a team, but who is our fave? Gonna get emotional, so go grab a tissue. We're rounding up the show with the best issue. Yeah, I see all the people in the audience have come to see us. Mr. Spielberg's there, Mr. Tarantino. Mr. Scorsese.
Still doing
I need to catch your latest movie, The Irishman.
Oh, same.
It's on Netflix. 3 hours puts me off. So
3.5 hours.
So that's probably 3 sittings for me, I reckon.
Bloody hell! You've got ADHD, I think.
Yeah. All right, we're getting on with the ceremony.
Anal
all right,
dystrophy.
we're getting on with it. We're getting on with it. So, the first award we're going to look at is Best Cover, and whereas we normally cover a 2-year period, I think what we're going to do, this is just an overall, just for the whole run, what was our favourite cover of the whole run, rather than just focus on the last two years. So, have both you boys had a little look? I know, Ben, we weren't expecting you to.
I didn't
have you had a look?
I did. I have had a look, but I've always had a favourite cover.
Okay.
That's just stuck in my head from when I bought the issue, and it's nothing special, but it just resonates with me. It's issue 131, and it is Duke blasting a BAT, and the bolt is like coming through his back.
Right? Yeah.
You know the one I mean?
Yeah,
It's late on, but for some reason, I remember being a kid and thinking that was just the coolest thing. I mean, there's other great ones, but that has always been my favourite cover.
Yep.
What's yours, Chief?
I've got a couple here. I like 121, which is an Andy Wildman cover. It's where the Ninja Force are assaulting the Silent Castle, and I just like the composition of Storm Shadow in the centre, and all the others around it. It's just, a really, really, really striking image.
Ooh, that is a good one. I like the green. That's cool.
I like 107. You're going to get a couple from me. I like 107, which is the Stalker, and Storm Shadow, where it says
Version
Fugitives.
2. Good man.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Good man.
I like 39, which is almost... I'm just scrolling now.
Is that Stalker again?
Stalker again.
Oh,
that's a classic.
In the bushes.
In the bushes, and...
With sneakily in the background, no one sees him. You got Roadblock back there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Blue. Bit of blue for lads.
Couple of issues forward. Issue 45, Zartan in the background. Zartan in the background, aiming at Ripcord.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And my winner my favourite is actually issue 16.
Wait a minute.
Scroll back, baby.
Oh, wow, okay.
What?
That's your favourite?
Yeah. That's not your favourite, Chief. Yeah. You've made a mistake.
No, love it. So you got Destro,
Billy Basic.
Yeah, Destro fighting on the top of the Hiss tank, Cobra Commander in the background.
I did not call that.
Neither did I. Weirdo.
What about you, Diagnostic?
I've got a top 3. So I've gone for, again, these might be a little bit kind of obscure for you guys, but I really love it. In third place, one of my favourites, I don't know why I love it so much, is issue 47 with Wetsuit, Beachhead and Hawk on the Devilfish.
That's one of my faves.
I just think it looks so amazing. Like, it's
very exciting.
They look great. Wetsuit looks ripped. Like, it's just brilliant. I
know,
that.
Ben, you're a massive
Chief,
Beachhead
that was
fan.
my cover
love
in the awards. Do you remember?
Yeah.
That's a good cover.
Totes. In second place is, for many reasons, I love Storm Shadow version 2. And 103, where he's smashing through the glass. I think he looks dope.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So there's that one. And in first place, I've gone with issue 82, where Repeater is basically letting off.
That's a banger.
And the Viper is coming up behind him with his knife. And one honourable mention, I must say, I've completely lost it now, but I just saw it while you were talking about one of your favourite issues, and now I have completely lost it. Oh, yeah, it's Flint being hung upside down over the vat of toxic goo and the Eco Warriors issue, because I think that's really cool.
That is number...
125.
125, yeah. Yeah, that is a good image.
My winner is 82, so just...
That is a good image. Let's have another award. Let's have favourite issue. As we're talking about issues, let's have favourite issue.
I think you know mine.
Yours is 85, SFX.
Correct.
Which is a fantastic silent issue. It's when Zartan tries to take his ultimate revenge on Storm Shadow.
Also, Storm Shadow's on the cover, and that's pretty cool, but I didn't like it because it was effectively didn't have the hood up.
Right, okay.
So that was the only reason, but it's really cool.
Yeah, 85. I think I've got a couple here. I'm going with issue 100, which is obviously part of a multi-part storyline, but it's the one where Cobra Commander finally, I'm back, and Millville and all those shenanigans. I think
Ben's back.
It's got a great comedy vibe to that one. I've also saying 85 is a great issue. I'd be remiss if I didn't say issue 21, which is obviously the first silent issue.
Why? No one ever talks about issue 21 ever. It never gets mentioned ever.
But my top two are issue 26, which is the first part of the two-part Origin of Snake Eyes.
The strangest secret
You
of
love
all.
that.
Yeah.
You love that,
Yeah,
Chief.
loved all that. And that was Larry Harmer on pencils as well for that one. So, but my favourite is issue 34, Shakedown.
That's mine, dude.
Is it? Is that your favourite?
Yeah. Well, out of the ones
that you read.
Yeah.
Oh, was that the air battle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Wild
That's
Weasel
epic.
versus Ace.
That has
a
got
great
one of the
cover too.
all-time best panels with them both saluting each other as
as
they
they
go
go down the
past.
smoke.
It's
Amazing.
the perfect end.
Amazing.
Epic. Epic.
Should we
I've just
do
seen another cover that I really like.
Go on.
Issue 52 with Quick Kick in
Oh, yes.
version 1 Storm Shadow.
Yes, that's a beauty. He looks so Bruce Lee on that, doesn't he?
Spinning those nunchucks.
He looks so Bruce Lee on that. I love
There's some great covers.
So next up, let's have a look at Best Artist.
Okay.
Tricky one, because
I've got a couple. I've got two. One is because I'm a good friend with Ron Wagner, and I feel obligated. But also, he's brilliant and does some amazing art. But I kind of have to give the nod, I think, to Wildman on it. I just love his art. He wasn't always necessarily inked or coloured as well as he should have been, but I think some of his artwork is just breathtaking.
Who was doing the majority of the art in the sort of second half of the run that I missed?
Wildman did a
Loads.
stint. He did pretty
I
solid
think Ron,
stint.
when you jumped off around the mid-70s, I think you then got Ron Wagner came on, then MD Bright.
Bright was good
John
as well, yeah.
Statemar, and then Andy Wildman.
And Gossier.
And then Phil Gossier were the main pencilers. There was obviously some fill-ins along the way, but they were the main ones. I think for me, it's tricky. MD Bright is a great fit for G.I. Joe. I think he did some great issues. I would like to have seen more of his. So he did he did the Snake Eyes trilogy in the 90s, where he gets a new face, and then the Return of Cobra Commander. But he also did, so that's like 90s and 100s, but he also did, back in, I think, issue 37, he did a Hydrofoil issue, which you would have covered as part of the run. But I think I'm going to go with Rod Wiggum, who covered most of the issues, I think, from around the 30s through to sort of 50s something, I think. I could be getting that completely wrong, but I think for me, Rod Wiggum. And he actually came back for a three-parter, 116 to 118, the Search for Destro as well.
Yeah. Cool, man.
I think I'm going to have to say the same, because he's the dude that did the majority of the ones that I've read, so I don't want to say anyone that I haven't read.
Fair.
But what about, aren't you a massive fan of Herb Trimpe?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of Trimpe. I think he's really great, and he did obviously the vast majority of the special missions.
Yes.
Which we also covered.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, Trimpe's fantastic.
Cool, man.
But I'd say Wiggum probably top. I do like Frank Springer as well. A little shout out to Frank Springer. But let's move on to Best Vehicle.
Vehicle.
That's it. I know your one.
God, there's just so many. I mean...
I'll go first. I'll go first this time. So I have 3 on my list.
Same.
I am a big fan of the Hiss Tank.
Yeah.
Right, it's a classic.
The Doorstop, as I like to call it.
The Doorstop, yeah. I'm a big fan, visually, of the... I think it's called the Cobra Wolf that comes on the Ice Viper.
the snow vehicle's amazing, yeah, totally.
And my number 1 is the Rattler.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Good.
it's a classic.
I got 3 completely different ones.
Yep, go on then.
In actual fact. I'm going to start with the Desert Fox because I think it's brilliant. And that is the kind of 6-wheel drived desert kind of Jeep thing that is driven by Skidmark in the United States and Treadmark in the United Kingdom.
Yep.
I'd always loved that. And just brilliant kind of vehicle. And I thought they used it quite a lot actually in some of the later issues that we were reading, Chief. So I was quite happy that it was incorporated so often. But the kind of top 2 for me are both air vehicles. For the Cobra team, it has to be the Mamba, the twin prop Mamba, because it's just so cool, weird, aggressive, and it's used again so much in the comics, and I love that. But the number one for me is a Joe vehicle, and it is the Tomahawk, because it is just gorgeous, and it dons my favourite ever cover of all time in any comic, and that is on the cover.
Special Missions one with Muskrat.
No, not on the G.I. Joe comic, on an Action Force comic, and it is the Action Force monthly issue 6, I believe, where they're all jumping out of the Tomahawk as it's kind of like hovering just over the ground at an angle. It is absolutely beautiful, that cover. In any case, we'll get to that when we talk about it later. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, I've got so many. I haven't actually thought about my best one. Okay, so I've got
Buzzball.
I've got the Havoc.
Oh, gorgeous
with cross
vehicle.
country.
Gorgeous vehicle.
As driver. Then I've got, this is a random one, but I actually had the toy and I loved it. It's a bit new for me, but the Phantom X-19, the Stealth.
Oh yeah, Ghost Rider.
Stealth fighter with Ghost Rider. Then,
or what's his name, as he's known as in the comics.
What's he known?
What's his name?
Oh, yeah.
They never say his name.
Then I've got another random one, the Warthog. Sergeant Slaughter's second vehicle.
Good shout.
Because I had it and I just absolutely love it, because you get about 12 figures on it. Brilliant. And also those two massive yellow missiles. They're not missiles. They're like torpedoes. They go in the water.
Yeah, they're massive.
Or in your bath. But so those are my favourite three.
Yeah, good stuff. So the last two we're going to look at is favourite Joe and favourite Cobra. So who fancies?
I'm ill prepared for this.
My favourite. Well, I'll go for mine. My favourite Joes. Specifically version 2 Storm Shadow, because I love that deco so much. And this is a weird one and a bit out there, because he didn't really get the best run in the comics at all. He was only really in it a couple of times, and that is Lightfoot. Because I feel like
Sniper?
No.
That's Low Light.
You're thinking
who's Lightfoot?
Lightfoot is an explosives expert who has a little robot drone.
I've got the figure. I've definitely got him.
Chris did a cosplay with an amazing
of the Night Force version. Yeah. So, I'm a big fan of that as just in general. But like in terms of my favourite Joe, it has to be Storm Shadow version 2 with the deck, because obviously that's when he was a Joe. He was a Cobra before that. So, And for Cobra, it's Road Pig, 100%. Dude's amazing.
Oh, Road Pig's great. Chief actually looks like Road Pig. Or did.
Wrong.
Well, I mean, you slimmed down a lot.
He will do with the grey hair.
You guys posted something on Insta of some dude in the most insane Road Pig get-up.
Tank, his name is. He's a member of the Finest. Really cool guy.
Have you ever seen anything like that? That is insane.
It's mental.
Chief, you should give that a go, man.
I need the flat top.
You're not fighting weight, though, are you?
No. I'm going with my favourite Joe. I've got 3 on the list. Spirit, big fan of Spirit Iron Knife.
You love Spirit, always have done.
And my top 2, he didn't get much page time, I guess, but he had that really cool arc 31 to 33 where him and Airborne are scoping out Snake Eyes in his cabin.
Yeah.
And then Destro comes up to clean his clock and they have to basically come and intervene. He's like 10 miles away and he just spotted us in the trees, Snake Eyes. So I like Spirit. He's kind of like the guardian of the pit as well. You want to get into the pit, you got to get past him. And then top 2, I find it difficult to split Stalker and Roadblock. Both get a lot of page time, a lot of issues.
Dude, you're full on Stalker.
Yeah.
He's got a massive stalk on for Stalker.
Yeah.
You do.
Well, I can't split them. I just great individual characters, great characterization, great usage in the stories. So
yeah, they get a lot of time as well, don't they? They're really solid characters.
And then
you had the original Stalker. I only had the Arctic one. When
Tundra Ranger is amazing, though. That is a great figure.
Yeah, it's great. It's very.
He's got a kayak.
Crazy rare.
Yeah.
And then for Cobra, from a trooper point of view, I'm a massive Snow Serpent fan. Now, Snow Serpent doesn't really get much airtime in G.I. Joe. Tennis rackets. There's a lot of airtime in the Action Force comic.
Yeah, he does.
You talking about the OG dude, with the big snowshoes and the
and that kind of little missile on a stick, on a little stand.
Yeah,
it's really cute.
But for me, my favourite, second is Mindbender. I just love his cod piece and his cape.
You like his cod piece,
and it's just his.
I like calling him Dr. Mindbumder.
Wormishness, and it's not original at all. But my favourite Cobra is Cobra Commander. It's not original, but I like the big CC.
Hang on, aren't you like a massive Zartan guy?
Yeah, I do like Zartan. Yeah, but
fairs. Okay, I've just had to think about this just now. I wasn't ready for this, but I'm gonna say Cobra. For some reason, the Cobra eel is so iconic.
Choice. Yes.
Eels up inside ya, finding an entrance where they can. Eels up inside ya, finding an entrance where they can. Boring through your mind, through your tummy, through your anus.
Mainly from that Action Force cover.
Totally, yeah.
There's something about the design on that thing.
Mate, that cover is incredible.
And also
unreal.
One of the first ever figures I had.
Oh, talk about iconic. That issue 2 cover is probably the most iconic Action Force thing of all time.
It's just that gleaming red chest plate on him. It's so cool. I don't know when they first pop up in the run, but anyway,
G.I. Joe?
Yeah, did they pop up, but they're not really announced. It's when what's his name's in the sand.
Yeah.
And he pops up and they come in off the beach.
Oh, Flint. He takes a beating. That's like issue 50 or something. Yeah,
possibly. I don't know. Anyway, so for G.I. Joe, I want to give an honourable mention to Snake Eyes version. Is it 3? Or I really like the sort of like
paintball version or the
blue
sexy
and black with the orange goggles.
Yeah, that's the version 3, version 4. Yeah.
Is it 3? It must be.
It's both. It's version 3 in the UK and version 4 in the US.
I imagine people hate that one, but I really like it. He came with a really bad like machine gun with a huge silencer on it.
Yeah. He also came with it was like a missile launcher, but it's a grappling hook, so it's got a bit of rope tied to it to the machine to the thing. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, but number one always will be Beachhead. That comes from a lot of watching the cartoons because he featured heavily in the cartoon. He was even kind of like third in command.
Now,
or something
quick question here. We postulated this as kids. In the movie, does he say...
He does.
Pathetic.
Yeah.
No, he goes...
Pathetic.
Pathetic.
Sure.
Pathetic.
Pathetic.
Chief, I remember we watched that so many times. When he's got Jinx and all those goons lined up.
They didn't have to do a Transformers thing for the theatre where they had to have what's his name swear just to kind of get it. It wasn't the same situation, so I don't think. And I've seen the script. I've seen the movie script, and it doesn't say so.
Okay.
It's very doubtful that it says. I always just thought it was him going pathetic.
Right. We always thought. I'm still saying. Anyway,
God, no one said Firefly.
Oh, mate,
wow.
Fireflies. Well,
there's so many. So we could be here for days just going through the characters because they're brilliant. Right. They're so well done.
Firefly version 1, the toy is something else.
Yeah. Something else.
Right, that is the awards over. We will be doing more awards, I'm sure, when we cover more comics down the road. But right now, I want to hear about toys. So it's Toy Talk.
Chris talks about toys, ho ho. Chris talks about G.I. Joe. He talks about all the things from the comic book and the animated show. Chris talks about toys. Chris talks about toys. Chris talks about toys. Chris talks about toys.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm gonna go. I'm fast forwarding to the year 2006 now. So where I've been kind of trying to keep it within the year and the kind of what was happening in the comic, I've flashed forward, and there's a reason for it. So in the kind of like early to mid 2000s, G.I. Joe is making a little kind of return. Well, I would say toy shelves, but kind of in like adult collectors' rooms, should we say? And Hasbro were basically,
terrifying.
I know, it's horrible. And Hasbro were re-releasing these comic packs, and they were doing really well with these comic packs. It was like reissued kind of O-ring figures with different head sculpts on like, you know, like a 3-pack with like a comic in the background as well, that kind of whatever the comic was related to what figures were kind of in that particular set. And in 2006 we got a comic 3-pack reprinting Marvel's issue 26. It included Classified, Lonzo R. Wilkinson, and Tommy Arashikage. And now basically that 3-pack included this one figure called Classified, which was Snake Eyes, but in his kind of greens with the hat dipping over, and a bit of a shadow on the face. So it's really cool, this figure. What they did was they basically gave him the hat, but they dipped it low, so you can't remove it. It's kind of molded on there. And they painted around the eyes this kind of darker shadow. So it's not even like a real shadow. It's like a fake shadow, so you can't really see the face that clearly. But I remember when this was released and just going, I need this really bad. And it had Tommy Arashikage, which is a really wicked figure, again in his like Vietnam gear with the headband and everything, like unmasked. Stalker, which is basically green repaint with the short sleeves. And this and this Classified figure. So it's just really cool. Obviously came with the comic as well, and I just loved it because it's the first time we saw Snake Eyes not in his, his black get-up or his, masked up and all that kind of jazz.
And what year was this again, sorry?
2006. So I remember when this came out and I was like online trying desperately to get hold of it. This is like, I want to say it's like version... What the version at the time was, let me just quickly run through all of the Snake Eyes. It would have been, it's version 1 Classified, but it would have been around version 27, 28 of Snake Eyes. There are now over 70 versions of Snake Eyes
70.
As a toy. Over 70. And if you count things like
70 individual toy releases of the character.
4-inch, either 3 3/4 vintage or 4-inch modern action figures.
Right.
And if you count like Sigma 6, and if you count 12-inch and Hall of Fame and all that kind of stuff, then you're well into the hundreds comfortably. It's one of those characters that is always released in a toy line for G.I. Joe in multiple different ways. So yeah, so just big shout out to that. Now he did come with a file card as well. They all came with file cards. I'll just read out Classifieds. It's file name Classified, serial number Classified, grade E7, birthplace Classified, primary military specialty infantry and secondary specialty hand-to-hand combat instructor. Snake Eyes owes his life to Storm Shadow, which makes it even more of a tragedy that they are now bitter enemies. Back when he was a regular soldier in the military, Snake Eyes served with Storm Shadow and Sergeant Stalker long before the G.I. Joe team and the Cobra organisation came into their lives. While conducting long-range recon, Snake Eyes carried 2 things with him at all times: his M60 machine gun and a battered picture of his twin sister. He never spoke much, remaining silent even when Storm Shadow offered him a place in the family business. On one patrol, Snake Eyes was seriously wounded in an attack, and Storm Shadow risked his own life to run back through heavy weapons fire to save him. Now, every time Snake Eyes faces his enemy in combat, he cannot forget that this is the same person who was once his friend. And one other thing I want to mention about the figure is that on his hat, he has a picture of his sister tucked into his into the little band around the hat. So they've even gone to that like length in kind of adding that element of it, and it's quite clear when you actually look at the picture. I'll send you a picture to tweet out, Chief. But that is Classified version 1 Covert Mission Specialist from the Comic 3-pack that reprinted Marvel's issue 26.
That's amazing, Chief. When you were at the toy fair, you sent me a picture of some insane Snake Eyes toy of him abseiling down a wall or something.
Oh,
was that the statue
on the wall here? Yeah, that's
was that the
just
statue?
One of the statues, yeah.
Yeah, it's a statue. Yeah,
I have that.
That's
It's wicked.
awesome.
It's on the Cobra's kind of statue, isn't it? It's really, really wicked.
Yeah.
When I was about 8, I signed up to be a member of the Action Force Members Club.
Good man.
I think it was on the back of the packs, and one of the things was you got to design a toy, not a toy, but you got to design a character, and you got to write his file card and everything.
Yeah.
And I did the whole thing, and he was called Vice.
Nice.
So I think I was watching Miami Vice with my mum late at night, and I wrote out his file card, and I drew an awful picture of what he looked like, and I sent it all off, and then they wrote back and just said, we haven't had enough interest in the Action Force fan club, and we're not going to do it. I was like, no,
Mate.
Vice will never see the light of day.
That happened quite a lot, actually. Like, obviously, there was a number of different fan clubs. There was the Special Corps, which is where you could kind of like, it was basically the US Steel Brigade, but for the UK. And you could basically write in like a questionnaire, fill out a questionnaire, and it gave you this generic action figure with the helmet and everything, and it would come back with a file card on like a bit of like hardcore paper that had like your name and your specialties and all that kind of stuff, and then like little explanations about each kind of personality trait that you had, which is really cool. And but other than that, there was one called G-Force as well, which was another kind of later in the kind of time period fan club that again I went in for, and they had to basically cancel it, unfortunately, due to those kind of issues.
Do you remember cutting out the tokens? I'm just having a massive flashback.
Loads of them.
Every
Still
figure
have
you
them.
got gave you one token,
Yeah.
and every vehicle gave you like 2 or 3
action points, yeah, unless it was
Action
G.I. Joe and then it
points.
was flag points, but yeah.
I actually remember taking quite a hit when I got that letter, because it made me feel, I was like, oh, I just felt like alone, like, oh,
devastating.
No one else sort of is into this. I was like, wow, there's not even enough people to have a fan club. I was like, man, it's just me and Chief, and he's a lot older than me.
Amazing.
Good stuff.
Chief, me and Phoenix have been doing so many setups. He's so into the figures.
That's
Seriously,
brilliant. That's
I
brilliant.
really need, what do you call them? The rubber bands, the O-rings.
O-rings, yeah.
Yeah, I've got so many of my figures to rebuild.
I did
I've got a hell of a collection.
Yeah, I did 130 like installations of O-rings just recently on my
installations.
Yeah,
Love
it took me like days to get all those done.
Oh, I bet it's quite satisfying though.
It's well good, yeah. Especially when they're all of a sudden they're like back to fighting
Yeah.
fit, and you're like, oh my god, this. One of my buddies when I was a kid, he put Roadblock version 2 in his pocket. It was my
Wait,
figure.
what is version 2 Roadblock? Because he's one of your faves.
It's the one where he's got the kind of like white t-shirt underneath a kind of like body warm, like a green body warmer with like a red shoulder kind of piece. White pants.
Is that the same line where they sort of re-released like Spirit, Stalker, all the old guys?
This was like, it was actually early doors. Like the first Roadblock was like the one with the.
Oh no, sorry, I'm thinking that's version 1. Yeah, to me that is the iconic Roadblock.
Yeah, the iconic one. Yeah. He put that in his pocket and then he pulled it out and it was just in pieces. And I was gutted because it was before. Like I didn't know that you could fix it like I do now.
Yeah, you thought that was
so
it.
I just thought it was trashed. I've still got him. And I ended up fixing him like later on in years, but obviously at that point I just thought it was and I was gutted. So yeah.
What do you do with the sort of loosey-goosey ones? How do you fix those guys? You know where all their knee joints are?
Oh,
do you remember Dusty?
the only thing you can do.
He had a right knee that just would not stand still.
You can't, not posable.
Yeah, Sergeant Slaughter's like that, or Sergeant Slammer from the Triple T versions like that. You kind of got wobbly lower legs. But the only thing you can do is unscrew it and then replace the entire leg portion or the lower.
Do they do that on the NHS or? Oh god!
Right.
Chief, have you got anything in your? You got nothing.
No.
Toy-wise?
I got quite a bit.
Have you?
Yeah, I got the original Jammer, which is
Wow.
Stalker in his, guise with the red
Z-Force.
beret when he was named
Yeah.
Jammer. Yeah.
Cool. I like this toy segment. We should have done that when I was doing this.
Well,
Chief.
there'll
Never
be
mind.
you can tune in because there will be more toy talk when we move on to whatever we read next, because there's always toys to talk about. But right now, we need to talk about British colloquialisms, aka over egg in the pudding.
We got a pudding, we're gonna egg it. We got a pudding, we're gonna over egg it. We got a pudding, we got no criticisms. That means it's time for some British colloquialisms.
Can't wait to listen to that. Jingle.
Right, so who's going first? You go first, as in diagnostic.
Okay, so mine is interesting. I was listening to I listened to a podcast called My Favourite Murder. It's going to make me sound like a psychopath, but basically it's these two women, Karen and Georgia, who basically talk about horrible murders, but they're comedians, so it's funny.
Okay.
They're kind of like trying to take the edge off this like horrible shit. It's actually really interesting. It's hugely popular. Like it's crazy, like true crime stuff, basically. And so I listened to that, and it's just really good. Anyway, they were doing. I'm at to the point now. I'm behind, so I'm kind of trying to catch up with where they are now. But they did a European tour, and they were talking about dinner, breakfast, tea, lunch, all of the different terms that we have for the different, food things during the day, and how we're different in Europe and all this kind of. And they were getting like so much wrong, but it's one of those things where you're kind of like shouting at a podcast, like trying to tell them the answer, which probably happens a lot on here actually when we're talking about stuff. But so basically the thing was they were confused with the term tea, and I was trying to say it's just another word for dinner in certain dialects out loud, but they wouldn't listen. So effectively, let me just run through these things: breakfast, lunch, dinner, tea. They're terms that we give certain food intakes during the day. Breakfast is obviously in the morning. We have lunch. Now, in some cases, in some areas of the United Kingdom, lunch isn't referred to as lunch. It's referred to as dinner, believe it or not. And tea is what those certain people in certain areas of the country refer to as dinner, which would be our later meal. So it's really confusing, but obviously I always thought that was really interesting. And for the Americans listening, I would say breakfast, lunch and dinner. But I've got friends especially in Norfolk, which is where this is done a lot as well. They would say breakfast, dinner and tea.
Yeah, so I was always of the impression that it was a northern thing to say breakfast, dinner, tea. However, I said breakfast, dinner, tea, and I am from the south.
Yeah.
But most people in the south, I think you're right, would say breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Yeah. I mean, I say breakfast, lunch, dinner, but I'm effectively from the East, East Anglia.
And at school, they were dinner ladies.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and they were a nightmare.
But anyway, yeah, that's mine.
Okay, my one is I was watching some darts on TV last week.
That's just
funny. It was
funny.
the Players' Championship, and someone had
180.
I don't know what he had. He had like 85 to check out, and he hit 2 duff numbers, and the commentator said he's made a right pig's ear out of that. And so my British colloquialism is pig's ear.
Brilliant.
To mean that you have messed something up. I don't know what the origins of pig's ear are, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about this segment, so I'm useless to you. Chief, you strike me as a guy that has his tea/dinner at 5 o'clock just after news round.
Incorrect. I like to do all my eating in an 8-hour block, so I will have breakfast at 8, lunch at 12, and tea at 4.
You sort of do intermittent fasting.
Yeah, eat in 8 hours.
Wait, Chief, you're not eating your dinner at 4?
I try to, yeah. Sometimes I push it to 4:30, but I'm definitely not eating after 6 o'clock. No way, that's crazy talk.
Okay, I know, but you probably keep this on the down low, but then cut to you at 11:30 at night in the kitchen, just
scoffing away,
eating everything.
I'm in bed at 10 p.m.
Oh Christ!
Mine is all down to when my mom would make dinner, and it was always around 5 to 5:30. It was always in that time period. And you're right. Like I remember eating my dinner, and it'd always be news round on TV, or it would be
Neighbours.
I'd hate it when this. Okay, this is something that only we would understand, and it's that thing of when. Children's TV where you'd be waiting for a cartoon, like a classic awesome cartoon like Thundercats or Turtles or something like that, and instead you'd get Blue Peter.
Oh, it's awful.
That'd be the worst day for me ever, when it'd be like, I want to see,
and it was on a lot.
Yeah, hate that.
Games Master at 6:30 was great.
I love that show. Oh, Patrick Moore, man.
It's funny now because I want to try and encourage to sort of eat with my children, but I can't eat at 5:30.
Why not?
I mean, when I was living in London, we were sort of basically eating at like 11 o'clock, and that sort of felt normal. And
I can't eat late. I just can't.
It's not good for you, is it? Eating late,
it
sits on you.
I can't eat late. I just can't do it. Like I have to. When it gets to like 7 o'clock, if I haven't eaten by then, it just doesn't happen.
Just go through.
Can't do it.
Wow.
We have got one more segment before we wrap this up, and it is
death.
Chief, ask Chris and Ben a question. Chief, ask Chris and Ben a question. What do they say?
What do they say?
What do they do
What do
when
they do?
Chief asks Chris and Ben a question?
So, we all know that.
What do you do when you sing that? What are you doing with your hands?
I am cupping my hand.
Darth Vader.
Cupping my
Bane.
hands around my mouth and swaying from side to side as I sing it.
I'm glad you said round your mouth. But carry on.
We all know that episode 9 is coming out in a couple of weeks' time. Are you boys engaging in any kind of preparation activity ahead of this? And also, are you pleased with the new Mandalorian show? I know me and Diagnostic, we discussed Mandalorian last week. Ben, your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on the Mandalorian are, I think it's fantastic.
Good man.
And I think it's like a video game kind of side quest.
Yes.
It just feels very gamey. He's upgrading his armour. He has to go on a Jawa side quest to go and get some egg. And
massive gaming.
I think it's ballsy. I think it's really great TV. I'm also so into the short episodes.
Yeah.
There's no fat. It's just singular.
Are there any?
I like the way it doesn't cut to anyone else just talking. It just stays with him.
Are there any other TV shows planned for Star Wars?
Yeah, Obi-Wan.
Right.
Yeah, Obi-Wan in the desert. Like a couple of those issues from the Marvel Comics.
When's that set?
I don't know, 4 years after Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
So he'll probably fight Vader again, I imagine.
Okay.
Probably give him another whooping.
And prep for episode 9, either of you two? Are you doing any?
Yeah, I'm not doing any prep for it. I'll just be going to watch
Sit-ups.
the movie. Yeah. I'll probably have a pre-match before I go there, just to get some of it out of the system. No, I must admit, The Mandalorian has definitely rekindled my love for Star Wars again. It's just literally reinvigorated me. It's just brilliant, and the fact that it's out every week, it's for me. It's the thing of not having to literally get pummeled with it in one go. It's like this. It's like back to the old school time when it was you waited for a week, you watch the episode, you wait. Now it's. I feel like I've conditioned myself to binge watch things in as short a time period as possible, and it takes away from the enjoyment of the show. You're really just consuming for the sake of consuming sometimes, and I love the time and that kind of that thing of going, oh, the Mandalorian's on in a couple of days, I get to watch that, and that excitement level is brought up, and I'll tell you what, it is executing perfectly at the moment. Every episode has just been brilliant, and I love it so much. And the movie, I'm not too fussed about watching it. I'm going to go watch it. Usually I would do midnight showing. I'd be buying all the merchandise in the cinema and all that kind of stuff. This time, we're going to go see it a couple of days after it's out.
Yeah, I'm same. I'm almost not even bothered to go and see it. I don't.
Exactly.
If I didn't see it, I wouldn't bother me at all. But I am going to see it, obviously, just from a completist point of view.
Yeah.
But I'm not itching to see it. And it wouldn't bother me if I didn't see it for 6 months.
Same.
Yeah, I feel very similar, but only because of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
I think it's fascinating to compare any shot from The Mandalorian to any shot in the sort of the glitz of that trailer, of the sort of cinematic saga that we've been given. And I just think, that's not what I want, and this is what I want. There's something about everything, the marketing in The Mandalorian, it just feels almost like it was made in the 70s.
Yeah.
There's the camera work is very just with
spaghetti western style as well. Yeah. Totally.
And then you look at, I don't know, there's just something about the sheen on those saga films that, I don't know, I find it jarring, and it's just a bit disappointing how that's kind of ended up.
Can it end in a way that makes you happy?
No, not really, and I think that's what I figured out, hence why I'm not that excited about it, because there's nothing really they can do that's going to make me feel like they didn't care enough about it when they should have wrote it as one thing, an arc, and I know for a fact they've just made it up as they've gone along, and that just feels disrespectful to the IP, and I just don't know why they haven't been more careful with it.
And do we know going
I'm just
forward
not a fan
after
of the characters.
This, what the next Star Wars movies are?
Hiatus.
Your fingers on the pulse. I'm I don't consume any kind of news media.
There is going to be a hiatus, and then possibly something to do with, the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic.
All right, so thousands of years
in maybe three or 4 years' time.
I think that's good though. Like, I think it needs time.
It does,
and that's the
massively.
other thing. Like, having a Star Wars movie every year, and then at one point there was a 6-month gap between two of them. It was like, I loved Rogue One and I really enjoyed Solo, but I felt like the Force Awakens I really enjoyed when it first came out as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed that movie. But The Last Jedi, I got to the point with it where it was just like, I think I'm burnt out, and I just lost all interest in it, in Star Wars as a whole. Like, it just got to the point where I was like, I think I'm actually burnt out with it right now. I didn't think it would ever happen, because I was really excited that all this stuff was coming at me. But The Last Jedi, I think it did a lot to really set me back a few years with Star Wars, and I just thought, well,
I agree.
It needs time to, you need a big gap between these movies to kind of make them more like I want this, I need this now, like I'm ready for it. And I was not a fan of The Last Jedi at all.
I think Disney thought that Star Wars was effectively Teflon, and they basically gave Rian Johnson the keys to do whatever he wanted and to write whatever he wanted, just because they thought, well, it's Star Wars, everyone will see it and everyone will say it's great. And it utterly backfired. Like, yes, it made a lot of money, but it destroyed the fandom, and it set it back a couple of years for sure.
Are you doing opening day or not?
I've got tickets booked, for me, Phoenix, and Emma, to check it out. But it's just a missed opportunity, and I'm actually part of the problem. And I think that Disney, when they bought it, they because Lucas had a whole treatment for a whole trilogy, and they were like, sorry dude, we're not interested, we're gonna, we need to lean in to nostalgia to rekindle Star Wars and bring it back. And I think I was like, I want to see TIE fighters again and stormtroopers, but actually that's not creative, and that isn't pushing Star Wars forward. And what we've got is effectively a soft reboot, and I would be fascinated to read George Lucas's ideas, because he's the creator, and I'm sure they would have been a lot better.
Do you know what makes me sad is the fact there's all that kind of brilliant expanded universe stuff that was kind of made non-canon, and there was some really good stuff. Like, I thought cinematic would work beautifully, kind of cinematically, some really cool kind of avenues to kind of go down. And they went a different direction with it with The Force Awakens, but at the same time I was happy after that film. I was fully satisfied.
Same. Really
enjoyed it. And then but The Last Jedi just kind of like, almost kind of like, did not pay any respect to what had come before at all.
No.
Like, there was nothing there. And the Canto Bite scene, and like all that with the characters I just don't really care for. And also I felt like there was a real drop off in terms of alien creatures, where in previous Star Wars movies, the atmosphere is like, it's everywhere you look is like a different species of character. And the main cast are mainly humanoid, but you've got droids, you've got Chewie, you've got Yoda, there's many different main characters that are like different and weird and quirky. And in this one, it's just all human. Like, the whole rebellion is all human, and it's like there's no cool, quirky going on. I think Eloasti was the only kind of real interesting rebellion character for me, and he's in it for like 3 seconds, so what difference does it make, And I feel like not having that atmosphere about the movie, everyone's human, I'm like, I don't care for these people. I want to see Star Wars. I don't want to see this kind of diluted version of it, which is what it felt like.
I was very aware for the first time with The Last Jedi that I was like, I'm aware that someone is filming this and these are actors.
Yes.
And I didn't get that immersion.
Yeah.
That The Mandalorian does
big time,
so effortlessly. The Mandalorian feels like an historical document, like it happened, whereas
yes,
there's just something so contrived about these new films. And unfortunately I like Force Awakens a lot less now
for it,
because of everything that's, but it did leave it in a place where they could have done something interesting. Like, they did have to bring Star Wars back, so they did have to lean into nostalgia. But yeah, The Last Jedi was
I think for me, one of the things as well was, there's a lot of comedy moments in earlier Star Wars movies, but the comedy moments, especially in Last Jedi, were just so
terrible.
off base.
It was current. It was like
our
current.
world
Yes,
comedy.
exactly.
That's the
And this
problem,
is supposed to be like completely like apart from what we understand and what we know. And I think the humour works best in Star Wars when no one realises it's humour. When none of the characters realise they're telling a joke or saying something funny or whatever. Yeah. But that whole
they're not zingers. They're not zingers.
Prank
are they?
phone call at the beginning of Last Jedi. I was
but
just
how does that get? How does that get out of the room? This is what I don't understand. You've got 12 people around a table. How is no one putting their hand up after they've screened that to the executive? How is no one saying, guys, that is horrendous, that line? That's what I thought when I was watching that film. I was like, this cannot be the best that you can give us.
And how much of an asshole did they make Poe? Like, he was brilliant in Force Awakens, and then in Last Jedi just turns into an absolute douchebag.
They didn't know what to do with him. There was no communication.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I'm sure we will discuss episode 9 on a future episode. We might even get you back on, Ben, for a little discussion on episode 9.
We should do a spoiler chat about it. It might be, guys.
The next day, just be like...
It might be amazing.
Yeah.
It really could be. There's no reason why it might not be.
Totally. Palpatine,
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, let's move on. Well, there's not much to move on, Chief, because it's the end of the show. But we want to thank our special guest, Ben, for coming on this deal today. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, it was so good to be back on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
G.I. Joe.
You can catch us in all the usual places. Talking_Joe on Twitter, Talking Joe Comics on Instagram, Talking Joe Comics at gmail.com, and Talking Joe, a G.I. Joe podcast on Facebook.
How is that Facebook group? Is it a hub of activity and intellectual chat?
So you can find us in all those places. Where can they find people if they want to check out you, Ben? Where can they get hold of you?
Well, I'm still doing my kind of Ben Flying Retro Instagram page, making my retro videos and stuff. That's going quite well, so I'm doing that, so check me out there.
And Diagnostic 80, what about you, sir?
Diagnostic 80 on Twitter and Instagram, and of course the Full Force podcast on Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Patreon. Yeah. Give us money. I'm not 100% sure what we're doing next week, but you probably couldn't go far wrong if you read-along listeners dug out the 1980s G.I. Joe versus Transformers crossover, because there's a high likelihood we'll be covering that. But because we're doing that,
we could be doing it. Yeah, just read it anyway, just in case. But
because we're doing that.
With all that said and done, we will catch you down the road.
Bye.
See you later, guys.